the Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Translated into English prose from the original Sanskrit text by Pratap Chandra Roy C.I.E. This free ebook has been downloaded from holybooks.com. Vana Parva. Section 132, Tirthayatra Parva continued. Lomesa said, "See here, O Lord of men, the sacred hermitage of Svetketu, son of Uddalaka, whose fame as an expert in the sacred mantras is so widely spread on earth. This hermitage is graced with coconut trees. Here Svetketu beheld the goddess Saraswati in her human shape, and spake unto her, saying, May I be endowed with the Ashtavkara, the son of Kahoda, who stood to each other in the relation of uncle and nephew, were the best of those conversant with the sacred lore. Those two Brahmanas, of matchless energy, who bore unto each the relationship of uncle and nephew, went into the sacrificial ground of King Janaka, and there defeated one then in a controversy. Worship, O son of Kunti, with thy brothers, the sacred hermitage of him who had for his grandson Ashtavkara, who, even when a mere child had caused one then to be drowned in a river, after having defeated him in a literary contest. Yudhishthira said, Tell me, O Lomisa, all about the power of this man, who had in that way defeated one then. Why was he born as Ashtavkara, crooked in 8 parts in his body? Lomisa said, The sage Uddalaka had a disciple named Kahoda of subdued passions, and entirely devoted to the service of his preceptor, and who had continued his studies long. The Brahmana had served his tutor long, and his preceptor, recognizing his service, gave him his own daughter Sujata in marriage, as well as a mastery over the Shastras. And she became with child, radiant as fire. And the embryo addressed his father while employed in reading, O father, thou hast been reading the whole night, but of all that thy reading doth not seem to me correct. Even in my fetal state I have, by thy favor, become versed in the Shastras and the Vedas with their several branches. I say, O father, that what proceeds from thy mouth is not correct. Thus insulted in the presence of his disciples, the great sage in anger cursed his child in the womb, saying, Because thou speakest thus even while in the womb, therefore thou shalt be crooked in 8 parts of the body. The child was accordingly born crooked, and the great sage was ever after known by the name of Ashtavkara. Now, he had an uncle named Svetketu who was the same age with himself. Afflicted by the growth of the child in the womb, Sujata, desirous of riches, conciliating her husband who had no wealth, told him in private, How shall I manage, O great sage, the 10th month of my pregnancy having come? Thou hast no substance whereby I may extricate myself from the exigencies, after I have been delivered. Thus addressed by his wife, Kahoda went unto King Janaka for riches. He was there defeated in a controversy by one then, well versed in the science of arguments, and in consequence was immersed into water. And hearing that his son-in-law had been defeated in a controversy by one then, and caused to be drowned by him, Uddalaka spake unto his daughter Sujata, saying, Thou shalt keep it a secret from Ashtavkara. She accordingly kept her counsel so that Ashtavkara, when born, had heard nothing about the matter. And he regarded Uddalaka as his father and Svetketu as his brother. And when Ashtavkara was in his 12th year, Svetketu one day saw the former seated on his father's lap. And thereat he pulled him by the hand, and on Ashtavkara's beginning to cry, he told him, It is not the lap of thy father. This cruel communication went direct into Ashtavkara's heart, and it pained him sorely. And he went home and asked his mother, saying, "Where is my father?" Thereupon Sujata, who was greatly afflicted by his question, and apprehending a curse, told him all that had happened. And having heard all, the Brahmana at night said unto his uncle Swetketu, "Let us go unto the sacrifice of King Janaka, wherein many wonderful things are to be seen. There we shall listen to the controversy between the Brahmanas and shall partake of excellent food. Our knowledge also will increase." The recitation of the sacred Vedas is sweet to hear and is fraught with blessings. Then they both, uncle and nephew, went unto the splendid sacrifice of King Janaka. And on being driven from the entrance, Ashtavkara met the king and addressed him in the following words. Thus ends the 132nd section in the Tirthaitara Parva of the Vana Parva. Section 133, Tirthayatra Parva continued. Ashtavkara said, when no Brahmana is met with on the way belonged to the blind, the deaf, the women, carriers of burden and the king respectively. But when a Brahmana is met with on the way, it belongeth to him alone. Thereupon the king said, I give thee privilege to enter. Do thou, therefore, go in by whatever way thou likest. No fire ever so small is to be slighted. Even Indra himself bowed unto the Brahmanas. At this Ashtavkara said, We have come, O ruler of men, to witness thy sacrificial ceremony, and our curiosity, O king, is very great. And we have come here as guests. We want the permission of thy order to enter. And, O son of Indradyumna, we have come desirous of seeing the sacrifice, and to meet King Janaka and speak to him. But thy warder obstructs us, for this our anger burneth us like fever. The warder said, We carry out the orders of Vandin. Listen to what I have to say. Lads are not permitted to enter here, and it is only the learned old Brahmanas that are allowed to enter. Ashtavkara said, If this be the condition, O warder, that the door is open to those only that are old, then we have a right to enter. We are old and we have observed sacred vows and are in possession of energy proceeding Vedic lore. And we have served our superiors and subdued our passions and have also won proficiency in knowledge. It is said that even boys are not to be slighted, for a fire, small though it be, burneth on being touched. The warder replied, O young Brahmana, I consider you a boy, and therefore recite, if you know, the verse demonstrating the existence of the Supreme Being, and adored by the divine sages, and which although composed of one letter, is yet multifarious. Make no vain boast. Learned men are really very rare. Ashtavkara said, True growth cannot be inferred from the mere development of the body, as the growth of the knots of the silmali tree cannot signify its age. That tree is called full grown which although slender and short beareth fruits. But that which doth not bear fruits, is not considered as grown. The warder said, Boys receive instruction from the old, and they also in time grow old. Knowledge certainly is not attainable in a short time. Wherefore then, being a child, dost thou talk like an old man? Then Ashtavkara said, One is not old because his head is grey. But the gods regard him as old who, although a child in years, is yet possessed of knowledge. The sages have not laid down that a man's merit consists in years, or grey hair, or wealth, or friends. To us he is great who is versed in the Vedas. I have come here, O porter, desirous of seeing Vandin in the court. Go and inform King Janaka, who hath a garland of lotuses on his neck, that I am here. Thou shalt today see me enter into a dispute with the learned men, and defeat one then in a controversy. And when others have been silenced, the Brahmanas of matured learning and the king also with his principal priests, bear witness to the superior or the inferior quality of my attainments. The warder said, How canst thou, who art but in thy 10th year, hope to enter into this sacrifice, into which learned and educated men only are admitted? I shall, however, try some means for thy admittance. Do thou also try thyself. Ashtavkara then addressing the king said, O king, O foremost of Janka's race, thou art the paramount sovereign and all power reposeth in thee. In times of old, King Yayati was the celebrator of sacrifices. And in the present age, thou it is that art performer thereof. We have heard that the learned one then, after defeating in controversy men expert in discussion, causeth them to be drowned by faithful servants employed by thee. Hearing this, I have come before these Brahmanas, to expound the doctrine of the unity of the Supreme Being. Where is now one then? Tell me so that I may approach him, and destroy him, even as the sun destroyeth the stars. Thereupon the king said, Thou hopest, O Brahmana, to defeat one then, not knowing his power of speech. Can those who are familiar with his power, speak as thou dost? He hath been sounded by Brahmanas versed in the Vedas. Thou hopest to defeat one then, only because thou knowest not his powers of speech. Many a Brahmana hath waned before him, even as the stars before the sun. Desirous of defeating him, people proud of their learning, have lost their glory on appearing before him, and have retired from his presence, without even venturing to speak with the members of the assembly. Ashtavkara said, One then hath never entered into disputation with a man like myself, and it is for this only that he looketh upon himself as a lion, and goeth about roaring like one. But today meeting me he will lie down dead, even like a cart on the highway, of which the wheels have been deranged. The king said, He alone is a truly learned man who understandeth the significance of the thing that hath 30 divisions, 12 parts, 24 joints, and 360 spokes. Ashtavkara said, May that ever-moving wheel that hath 24 joints, 6 naves, 12 peripheries, and 60 spokes protect thee. The king said, Who amongst the gods beareth those two which go together like two mares yoked to a car, and sweep like a hawk, and to what also do they give birth? Ashtavkara said, May God, O king, forfend the presence of these two in thy house, aye, even in the house of thine enemies. He who appeareth, having for his charioteer the wind, I begetteth them, and they also produce him. Thereupon the king said, What is that doth not close its eyes even while sleeping? What is it that doth not move, even when born? What is it that hath no heart, and what doth increase even in its own speed? Ashtavkara said, It is a fish, that doth not close its eyelids, while sleeping, and it is an egg that doth not move when produced, it is stone that hath no heart, and it is a river that increase in its own speed. The key, Ng said, It seemeth, O possessor of divine energy, that thou art no human being. I consider thee not a boy, but a matured man. There is no other man who can compare with thee in the art of speech. I therefore give thee admittance. There is one then. Thus ends the 133rd section in the Tirthaitara Parva of the Vana Parva. Section 134, Tirthayatra Parva continued. Ashtavkara said, O king, O leader of fierce legions, in this assembly of monarchs of unrivaled power who have met together, I am unable to find out one then, chief of the controversialists. But I am searching for him, even as one doth for a swan on a vast expanse of water. O Vandan, thou regardest thyself as the foremost of controversialists. When thou wilt engage with me in staking, thou wilt not be able to flow like the current of a river. I am like a full flaming fire. Be silent before me, O Vandan. Do not awaken a sleeping tiger. Know that thou shalt not escape unstung, after trampling on the head of a venomous snake, licking the corners of its mouth with its tongue, and who hath been hurt by thy foot. That weak man, who, in pride of strength, attempts to strike a blow at a mountain, only gets his hands and nails hurt, but no wound is left on the mountain itself. As the other mountains are inferior to the Minka, and as calves are inferior to the ox, so are all other kings of the earth inferior to the Lord of Mithila. And as Indra is the foremost of celestials, and as the Ganga is the best of rivers, so thou alone art, O king, the greatest of monarchs. O king, cause Vandan to be brought to my presence. Lomesa said, saying this, O Yudhishthira, wroth with Vandan, Ashtavkara thus thundered in the assembly, and addressed him in these words, Do thou answer my questions, and I shall answer thine. Thereat Vandan said, One only fire blazeth forth in various shapes, one only sun illumineth this whole world, one only hero, Indra, the lord of celestials, destroyeth enemies, and one only Yam is the sole lord of the Pitris. Ashtavkara said, The two friends, Indra and Agni, ever move together. The two celestial sages are Narada and Parvata, twins are the Ashwini Kumaras, two is the number of the wheels of a car, and it is as a couple that husband and wife live together, as ordained by the deity. One then said, Three kinds of born beings are produced by acts. The three Vedas together perform the sacrifice, Vajapel, at three different times. The Advayus commence sacrificial rites, three is the number of words, and three also are the divine lights. Ashtavkara said, Four are the asramas of the Brahmanas, the four orders perform sacrifices, four are the cardinal points, four is the number of letters, and four also, as is ever known, are the legs of a cow. One then said, Five is the number of fires, five are the feet of the mitre called Panki, five are the sacrifices, five locks, it is said in the Vedas, are on the heads of the Apsaras, and five sacred rivers are known in the world. Ashtavkara said, 6 cows, it is asserted by some, are paid as a gratuity on the occasion of establishing the sacred fire. 6 are the seasons belonging to the wheel of time, 6 is the number of the senses, 6 stars constitute the constellation Kirtika, and 6, it is found in all the Vedas, is the number of the Sadhyaska sacrifice. One then said, 7 is the number of the domesticated animals, 7 are the wild animals, 7 meters are used in completing a sacrifice, 7 are the rishis, 7 forms of paying homage are extant in the world, and 7, it is known, are the strings of the Vina. Ashtavkara said, 8 are the bags containing 100-fold, 8 is the number of the legs of the Sarabha, which preyeth upon lions, 8 verses, as we hear, are amongst the celestials, and 8 are the angles of Yupa, stake, in all sacrificial rites. One then said, 9 is the number of the mantras used in kindling the fire in sacrifices to the Pitris, 9 are the appointed functions in the processes of creation, 9 letters compose the foot of the mitre, Vrihati, and 9 also is ever the number of the figures, in calculation. Ashtavkara said, 10 is said to be the number of cardinal points, entering into the cognition of men in this world. 10 times 100 make up 1,000, 10 is the number of months, during which women bear, and 10 are the teachers of true knowledge, and 10, the haters thereof, and 10 again are those capable of learning it. One then said, 11 are the objects enjoyable by beings, 11 is the number of the upas, 11 are the changes of the natural state pertaining to those having life, and 11 are the rudras among the gods in heaven. Ashtavkara said, 12 months compose the year, 12 letters go to the composition of a foot of the meter called Jagti, 12 are the minor sacrifices, and 12, according to the learned, is the number of the Adityas. One then said, the 13th lunar day is considered the most auspicious, 13 islands exist on earth. Lomesa said, having proceeded thus far, one then stopped. Thereupon Ashtavkara supplied the latter half of the sloka. Ashtavkara said, 13 sacrifices are presided over by Kesi, and 13 are devoured by Atijandas, the longer meters, of the Veda. And seeing Ashtavkara speaking and the Suta's son silent, and pensive, and with head downcast, the assembly broke into a long uproar. And when the tumult thus arose in the splendid sacrifice performed by King Janaka, the Brahmanas well pleased, and with joined hands, approached Ashtavkara, and began to pay him homage. Thereupon Ashtavkara said, before this man, defeating the Brahmanas in controversy, used to cast them into water. Let one then today meet with the same fate. Seize him and drown him in water. One then said, O Janaka, I am the son of King Varuna. Simultaneously with thy sacrifice, there also hath commenced a sacrifice extending over 12 years. It is for this that I have dispatched the principal Brahmanas thither. They have gone to witness Varuna's sacrifice. Lo, there they are returning. I pay homage to the worshipful Ashtavkara, by whose grace today I shall join him who hath begot me. Ashtavkara said, defeating the Brahmanas either by words or subtlety, one then had cast them into the waters of the sea. That Vedic truth which he had suppressed by false arguments, have I today rescued by dint of my intellect. Now let candid men judge. As Agni, who knoweth the character of both the good and the bad, leaveth unscorched by his heat the bodies of those whose designs are honest, and is thus partial to them, so good men judge the assertions of boys, although lacking the power of speech, and are favorably disposed towards them. O Janaka, thou hearest my words as if thou hast been stupefied in consequence of having eaten the fruit of the Sleshmataki tree. Or flattery hath robbed thee of thy sense, and for this it is that although pierced by my words as an elephant by the hook, thou hearest them not. Janaka said, listening to thy words, I take them to be excellent and superhuman. Thy form also standeth manifest as superhuman. As thou hast today defeated one then in discussion, I place even him at thy disposal. Ashtavkara said, O king, one then remaining alive, will not serve any purpose of mine. If his father be really Varuna, let him be drowned in the sea. One then said, I am King Varuna's son. I have no fear therefore in being drowned. Even at this moment, Ashtavkara shall see his long-lost sire, Kahoda. Lomisa said, then rose before Janaka all the Brahmanas, after having been duly worshipped by the magnanimous Varuna. Kahoda said, it is for this, O Janaka, that men pray for sons, by performing meritorious acts. That in which I had failed hath been achieved by my son. Weak persons may have sons endued with strength, dunces may have intelligent sons, and the illiterate may have sons possessed of learning. One then said, "It is with thy sharpened axe, O monarch, that even Yam sever at the heads of foes. May prosperity attend thee." In this sacrifice of King Janka, the principal hymns relating to the Ukta rites are being chanted, and the Soma juice also is being adequately quaffed. And the gods themselves, in person, and with cheerful hearts, are accepting their sacred shares. Lomesa said, when in enhanced splendor, the Brahmanas had risen up, one then, taking King Janka's permission, entered into the waters of the sea. And then Ashtavkara worshipped his father, and he himself also was worshipped by the Brahmanas. And having thus defeated the Suta's son, Ashtavkara returned to his own excellent hermitage, in company with his uncle. Then in the presence of his mother, his father addressed him, saying, "O son, thou speedily enter into this river, Samanga." And accordingly, he entered into the water. And as he plunged beneath the water, all his crooked limbs were immediately made straight. And from that day that river came to be called Samanga, and she became invested with the virtues of purifying sins. He that shall bathe in her, will be freed from his sins. Therefore, O Yudhishthira, do thou with thy brothers and wife descend to the river, and perform thy ablutions. O Kunti's son, O scion of the Ajamidha race, living happily and cheerfully at this place together with thy brothers and the Brahmanas, thou wilt perform with me other acts of merit, being intent upon good deeds. Thus ends the 134th section in the Tirthaitara Parva of the Vana Parva. Section 135, Tirthayatra Parva continued. Lomesa said, "Here, O king, is visible the river Samanga, whose former name was Madhuvila, and yonder is the spot named Kadamila, the bathing place of Bharata. The lord of Sachi, when fallen into misery in consequence of having slain Vritra, became freed from his sin, by performing his ablutions in this Samanga. Here, O bull among men, is the spot where the Mainka mountain hath sunk into the interior of the earth, and it is hence called Vinasana. For obtaining sons, here Aditi in days of yore had cooked that celebrated food, presided over by the Supreme Being. O ye bulls among men, ascend this lofty mountain and put an end to your inglorious misery unworthy to be uttered. Here, O king, before thee is the Kanakla range, the favorite resort of sages. And yonder is the mighty river Ganga. Here, in ancient times, the holy sage Sanat Kumara attained ascetic success. O scion of the Ajamidha race, by performing thy ablutions here in this river, thou wilt be freed from all thy sins. O son of Kunti, do thou together with thy ministers, touch the waters of this lake called Puni, and this mountain Brigutunga, and also the water of these two rivers, called Tushniganga. Here, O Kunti's son, appear at the hermitage of the sage Tulsiras. Resign here thy anger and sense of self-importance. There, O son of Pandu, is seen the beautiful hermitage of Ravya, where perished Bharadwaja's son, Yavkri, profound in Vedic lore. Yudhishthira said, "How did the mighty sage, Yavkri, son of the ascetic Bharadwaja, acquire profundity in the Vedas? And how also did he perish? I am anxious to hear all this, just as it happened. I take delight in listening to the narration of the deeds of godlike men." Lomisa said, "Bharadwaja and Ravya were two friends. And they dwelt here, ever taking the greatest pleasure in each other's company. Now, Ravya had two sons, named Vavasu and Pavasu, and Bharadwaja, O Bharata's son, had an only son, named Yavkri. Ravya and his two sons were versed in the Vedas, while Bharadwaja practiced asceticism. But, O son of Bharata, from their boyhood, the friendship subsisting between those two was unequaled. O sinless one, the high-spirited Yavkri, finding that his father, who practiced asceticism, was slighted by the Brahmanas, while Ravya with his sons was greatly respected by them, was overwhelmed with sorrow, and became sore aggrieved. Thereupon, O son of Pandu, he entered upon severe austerities, for obtaining a knowledge of the Vedas, and he exposed his body to a flaming fire. By thus practicing the most rigid austerities, he caused anxiety in the mind of Indra. Then Indra, O Yudhishthira, went to him and addressed him saying, Wherefore, O sage, hast thou become engaged in practicing such rigid austerities? Yavkri said, O thou adored of celestial hosts, I am practicing severe penances, because I wished that such a knowledge of the Vedas as hath never been acquired by any Brahmana whatever, may be manifest unto me. O conqueror of Paka, these endeavors of mine have been for Vedic lore. O Kaushika, by the force of my asceticism, I purpose to obtain all sorts of knowledge. O Lord, a knowledge of the Vedas as learned through teachers, is acquired in a long time. Therefore, with the view of attaining in short time a proficiency in the Vedas, I have put forth these high endeavors. Indra said, O Brahmana sage, the way that thou hast adopted is not the proper way. What for, O Brahmana, wilt thou destroy thyself? Go and learn from the lips of a preceptor. Lomesa said, O son of Bharata, having said this, Sakra went away, and Yavkri of immeasurable energy, once more directed his attention to asceticism. O king, we have heard that carrying on severe austerities he again greatly agitated Indra. And the god Indra, slayer of Vala, again came unto that great sage, who was engaged in austere penances, and forbade him, saying, Thou art striving with the object that Vedic lore may be manifest unto thee as well as unto thy father, but thy exertions can never be successful, nor is this act of thine well advised. Yavkri said, O Lord of the celestials, if thou wilt not do for me what I want, I shall, observing stricter vows, practice still severer penances. O Lord of celestials, I know that if thou do not fulfill all my desires, I shall then cut off my limbs and offer them as a sacrifice into a blazing fire. Lomesa said, knowing the determination of that high-souled sage, the sagacious Indra reflected and hit upon some expedient to dissuade him. Then Indra assumed the guise of an ascetic Brahmana, hundreds of years old, and infirm, and suffering from consumption. And he fell to throwing up a dam with sands, at that spot of the Bhagirathi to which Yavkri used to descend for performing ablutions. Because Yavkri, chief of the Brahmanas, paid no heed to Indra's words, the latter began to fill the Ganga with sands. And without cessation, he threw handfuls of sand into the Bhagirathi, and began to construct the dam, attracting the notice of the sage. And when that bull among the sages, Yavkri, saw Indra thus earnestly engaged in constructing the dam, he broke into laughter, and said the following words, What art thou engaged in, O Brahmana, and what is thy object? Why dost thou, for nothing, make this mighty endeavor? Indra said, I am trying, O my son, to dam the Ganga so that there may be a commodious passage. People experience considerable difficulty in crossing and recrossing the river by boat. Yavkri said, O thou of ascetic wealth, thou canst not dam up this mighty current. O Brahmana, desist from what is impracticable, and take up something that is practicable. Indra said, O sage, I have imposed on myself this heavy task, even as, for obtaining a knowledge of the Vedas, thou hast begun these penances, which can never be fruitful. Yavkri said, If, O chief of the celestials, those efforts of mine be fruitless, even as those of thy own, then, O Lord of heavenly hosts, be thou pleased to do for me what is practicable. Vouchsafe unto me boons whereby I may excel other men. Lomesa said, Then Indra granted boons, as was prayed for by the mighty ascetic. Indra said, As thou desirest, the Vedas will be manifest unto thee, yea even unto thy father, and all thy other desires will also be fulfilled. Return home, O Yavkri. Having thus obtained the object of his desire, Yavkri came unto his father and said, The Vedas, O father, will be manifest unto thee as well as unto myself, and I have obtained boons whereby we shall excel all men. Thereat Bharadvaja said, O my son, as thou hast obtained the objects of thy desire, thou wilt be proud. And when thou art puffed up with pride and hast also become uncharitable, destruction will soon overtake thee. O my son, there is a current anecdote narrated by the gods. In ancient times, O son, there lived a sage named Valadi, possessed of great energy. And in grief for the death of a child, he practiced the severest penances to have a child that should be immortal. And he obtained a son even as he desired. But the gods, though very favorably disposed towards him, did not yet make his son immortal like unto the gods. They said, On condition can a mortal being be made immortal. Thy son's life, however, shall depend on some instrumental cause. Thereupon, Valadi said, O chiefs of the celestials, these mountains have been existing eternally, and indestructible, let them be the instrumental cause of my son's life. Afterwards a son was born to the sage, named Medhavi. And he was of a very irritable temper. And hearing of the incident of his birth, he grew haughty, and began to insult the sages. And he ranged over the earth, doing mischief to the Munis. And one day, meeting with the learned sage Dhanushaksha endued with energy, Medhavi maltreated him. Thereupon, the former cursed him, saying, Be thou reduced to ashes. Medhavi, however, was not reduced to ashes. Then Dhanushaksha caused the mountain which was the instrumental cause of Medhavi's life, to be shattered by buffaloes. And the boy perished, with the destruction of the instrumental cause of his life. And embracing his dead son, Medhavi's father began to bewail his fate. Now hear from me, O my son, what was chanted by the sages conversant with the Vedas, when they found the sage mourning. A mortal on no condition whatever can overcome what hath been ordained by fate. Lo, I Dhanushaksha succeeded in shattering even the mountain by buffaloes. Thus young ascetics, puffed up with pride for having obtained boons, perish in a short time. Be thou not one of them. This Ravya, O my son, is possessed of great energy, and his two sons are like him. Therefore, be thou vigilant so as never to approach him. O my son, Ravya is a great ascetic of an irritable temper. When angry, he can do thee harm. Yavkri said, I shall do as thou biddest me. O father, do thou not by any means entertain anxiety for that. Ravya deserveth my regard even as thou, my father. Having replied unto his father in these sweet words, Yavkri, fearing nothing and nobody, began to delight in wantonly offending other munis. Thus ends the 135th section in the Tirthaitara Parva of the Vana Parva. Section 136, Tirthayatra Parva continued. Lomisa said, one day in the month of Chaitra, while fearlessly wandering at large, Yavkri approached the hermitage of Ravya, and O son of Bharata, in that beautiful hermitage, adorned with trees bearing blossoms, he happened to behold the daughter-in-law of Ravya, sauntering about like a Kinnara woman. And having lost his senses through passion, Yavkri shamelessly spake unto the bashful maiden, saying, Be thou attached unto me. Thereupon, knowing his nature, and afraid of a curse, as well as thinking of Ravya's power, she went unto him saying, I agree. Then, O son of Bharata, taking him in private, she kept him chained. O conqueror of foes, returning to his hermitage, Ravya found his daughter-in-law, Pavasu's wife, in tears. O Yudhishthira, thereat consoling her with soft words, he inquired of her as to the cause of her grief. Thereupon, the beautiful damsel told him all that Yavkri had said unto her, and what she also had cleverly said unto him. Hearing of this gross misbehavior of Yavkri, the mind of the sage flamed up, and he waxed exceedingly wroth. And being thus seized with passion, the great sage of a highly irascible temper, tore off a matted lock of his hair, and with holy mantras offered it as a sacrifice on the sacred fire. At this, there sprang out of it a female exactly resembling his daughter-in-law. And then he plucked another matted lock of his hair, and again offered it as a sacrifice into the fire. Thereupon sprang out of it a demon, terrible to behold, and having fierce eyes. Then those two spake unto Ravya, saying, What shall we do? Thereat, the angry sage said unto them, Go and kill Yavkri. Then saying, We shall do as thou biddest, they too went away with the intention of slaying Yavkri. And with her charms, the female whom the large-hearted sage had created, robbed Yavkri of his sacred water pot. Then with his uplifted spear the demon flew at Yavkri, when he had been deprived of his water pot and rendered unclean. And seeing the demon approach with uplifted spear for the purpose of slaying him, Yavkri rose up all on a sudden and fled towards a tank. But finding it devoid of water, he hurried towards all the rivers. But they too were all dried up. And being obstructed again and again by the fierce demon, holding the spear, Yavkri in fright attempted to enter into the Agnilvira room of his father. But there, O king, he was repulsed by a blind Sudra warder, and he remained at the door, grasped by the man. And, finding Yavkri thus grasped by the Sudra, the demon hurled his spear at him, and thereupon he fell down dead, pierced in the heart. After slaying Yavkri, the demon went back to Ravya, and with the permission of that sage, began to live with the female. Thus ends the 136th section in the Tirthaitara Parva of the Vana Parva. Section 137, Tirthayatra Parva continued. Lomesa said, O son of Kunti, Bharadwaja returned to his hermitage after performing the ritual duties of the day, and having collected the sacrificial fuel. And because his son had been slain, the sacrificial fires which used to welcome him every day, did not on that day come forward to welcome him. And marking this change in the Agnihotra, the great sage asked the blind Sudra warder seated there, saying, Why is it, O Sudra, that the fires rejoice not at sight of me? Thou too dost not rejoice as is thy wont. Is it all well with my hermitage? I hope that my son of little sense had not gone to the sage Ravya, Answer speedily, Sudra, all these questions of mine. My mind misgiveth me. The Sudra said, thy son of little sense had gone to the sage Ravya, and therefore it is that he lieth prostrate on the ground, having been slain by a powerful demon. Being attacked by the Rakshasa, holding a spear, he attempted to force his way into this room, and I therefore barred his way with my arms. Then desirous of having water in an unclean state, as he stood hopeless, he was slain by the vehement Rakshasa, carrying a spear in his hand. On hearing from the Sudra of this great calamity, Bharadwaja, sorely afflicted with grief, began to lament, embracing his dead son. And he said, O my son, it is for the good of the Brahmanas that thou didst practice penances, with the intention that the Vedas unstudied by any Brahmana whatever might be manifest unto thee. Thy behavior towards the Brahmanas had always been for their good, and thou hadst also been innocent in regard to all creatures. But, alas! At last thou didst lapse into rudeness. I had prohibited thee, O my son, from visiting the residence of Ravya, but alas! To that very hermitage, destructive to thee, as the god of death himself, Yam, didst thou repair. Evil-minded is that man, who knowing that I am an old man and also that Yavkri was my only son, had given way to wrath. It is through the agency of Ravya that I have sustained the loss of my child. Without thee, O my son, I shall give up my life, the most precious thing in the world. In grief for the death of my son, I renounce my life, but this I say, that Ravya's eldest son shall in a short time kill him, although he be innocent. Blessed are those to whom children have never been born, for they lead a happy life, without having to experience the grief incident to the death of a child. Who in this world can be more wicked than those who from affliction, and deprived of their sense by sorrow consequent upon the death of a child, curse even their dearest friends? I found my son dead, and, therefore, have cursed my dearest friend. Ah! What second man can there be in this world, destined to suffer so grievous a misfortune? Having lamented long, Bharadwaja cremated his son and then himself entered into a full blazing fire. Thus ends the 137th section in the Tirthaltara Parva of the Vana Parva. Section 138, Tirthaltara Parva continued. Lomesa said, at that very time, the mighty king, Vrihayumna, of high fortune, who was the Yajamana of Ravya, commenced a sacrifice. And the two sons of Ravya, Avavasu and Pavasu, were engaged by that intelligent monarch, to assist him in the performance of the ceremony. And, O son of Kunti, taking the permission of their father, they too went to the sacrifice, while Ravya with Pavasu's wife, remained in the hermitage. And it came to pass that one day, desirous of seeing his wife, Pavasu returned home alone. And he met his father in the wood, wrapped in the skin of a black antelope. And the night was far advanced and dark, and Pavasu, blinded by drowsiness in that deep wood, mistook his father for a straggling deer. And mistaking him for a deer, Pavasu, for the sake of personal safety, unintentionally killed his father. Then, O son of Bharata, after performing the funeral rites of his father, he returned to the sacrifice and there addressed his brother saying, Thou wilt never be able to perform this task unassisted. I again have killed our father, mistaking him for a deer. O brother, for me do thou observe a vow, prescribed in the case of killing a Brahmana. O Muni, I shall be able to perform this work, sacrifice, without any assistant. Vavasu said, "Do thou then thyself officiate at this sacrifice of the gifted Vrihayumna, and for thee will I, bringing my senses under perfect control, observe the vow prescribed in the case of slaying a Brahmana." Lomisa said, having observed the vow relative to the killing of a Brahmana, the sage Vavasu came back to the sacrifice. Seeing his brother arrive, Vavasu, in accents choked with malice, addressed Vrihayumna, saying, "O king, see that this slayer of a Brahmana enter not into thy sacrifice, nor look at it. Even by a glance, the killer of a Brahmana can, without doubt, do thee harm. O Lord of men." Immediately on hearing this, the king ordered his attendants to turn out Vavasu. "O king," on being driven out by the king's attendants, and repeatedly addressed by them, "O slayer of a Brahmana," Vavasu more than once cried, "It is not I that have killed a Brahmana." Not did he own that he had observed the vow for his own sake. He said that his brother had committed the sin, and that he had freed him therefrom. Having said this in anger, and being reprimanded by the attendants, the Brahmana sage of austere penances retired in silence into the woods. There betaking himself to the severest penances, the great Brahmana sought the protection of the sun. Thereupon, the revelation teaching the mantra relative to the worship of the sun became manifest unto him, and that eternal deity who obtaineth his share of the sacrificial butter first, appeared before him in an embodied form. Lomesa said, "The celestials, O king, were well pleased with Vavasu for his acts. And they made him engaged as the chief priest in the sacrifice of Vrihayumna, and Vavasu to be dismissed from it. Then Agni and the other celestials of their own accord bestowed boons on Vavasu. And they also prayed that his father might be restored to life. He further prayed that his brother might be absolved from his sin, that his father might have no recollection of his having been slain, that Bharadwaja and Yavkri might both be restored to life, and that the solar revelation might attain celebrity on earth." Then the god said, "So be it," and conferred on him other boons also. Thereat, O Yudhishthira, all of these persons regained their life. Yavkri now addressed Agni and the other deities, saying, "I had obtained a knowledge of all the Vedas, and also practiced penances. How came it then, O chiefs of the immortals, that Ravyas succeeded in killing me in that way?" Thereupon the gods said, "O Yavkri, never act again as those have done. What thou askest about is quite possible, for thou hast learnt the Vedas without exertion, and without the help of a preceptor. But this man, Ravya, bearing various troubles, had satisfied his preceptor by his conduct, and obtained from the latter the excellent Vedas through great exertions and in a long time." Lomisa said, having said this to Yavkri, and restored all those to life, the celestials with Indra at their head, ascended to heaven. Here, O Yudhishthira, is the sacred hermitage of that sage embellished with trees bearing blossoms and fruits at all seasons. O tiger among kings, dwelling at this spot, thou wilt be delivered from all thy sins. Thus ends the 138th section in the Tirthaitara Parva of the Vana Parva. Section 139, Tirthayatra Parva continued. Lomesa said, "O descendant of Bharata, O king, now hast thou left behind the mountains Yuzurvija, Mainka and Sweta, as well as the Kala hills, O son of Kunti. O bull among the descendants of Bharata, here flow before thee the 7 Gangas. This spot is pure and holy. Here Agni blazeth forth without intermission. No son of Manu is able to obtain a sight of this wonder. Therefore, O son of Pandu, concentrate your mind in order that thee may intently behold these tirthas. Now wilt thou see the playground of the gods, marked with their footprints, as we have passed the mountain Kala. We shall now ascend that white rock, the mountain Mandara, inhabited by the Yakshas, Manibhadra and Kuvara, king of the Yakshas. O king, at this place 80,000 fleet Gandharvas, and 4 times as many Kimpurushas and Yakshas of various shapes and forms, holding various weapons attend upon Manibhadra, king of the Yakshas. In these regions their power is very great. And in speed they are even as the wind. They can, without doubt, displace even the Lord of the Celestials from his seat. Protected by them, and also watched over by the Rakshasas, these mountains have been rendered inaccessible. Therefore, O son of Pritha, do thou concentrate thy thoughts. Besides these, O son of Kunti, here are fierce ministers of Kuvara and his Rakshasa kindred. We shall have to meet them, and, therefore, O Kunti's son, gather up thy energies. O king, the mountain Kailas is 6 yojanas in height. It contains a gigantic jujube tree. And, O son of Kunti, numberless gods and yakshas and rakshasas and kinnaras and nagas and suparnas and gandharvas pass this way, in going towards Kuvara's palace. O king, protected by me, as well as by the might of Bhimsena, and also in virtue of thy own asceticism and self-command, do thou today mix with them. Making Varuna and Yam, conqueror of battles, and Ganga, and Yamuna, and this mountain, and the Maruts and the twin Aswins, and all rivers and lakes, vouchsafe thy safety. And, O effulgent one, mayst thou have safety from all the celestials and the Asuras, and the Vasis. O goddess Ganga, I hear thy roar from this golden mountain, sacred to Indra. O goddess of high fortune, in these mountainous regions, protect the king, worshipped by all of the Ajamidha race. O daughter of the mountain, Himalaya, this king is about to enter into these mountainous regions. Do thou, therefore, confer protection upon him. Having thus addressed the river, Lomesa bade Yudhishthira, saying, Be thou careful. Yudhishthira said, This confusion of Lomesa is unprecedented. Therefore, protect ye Krishna, and be not careless. Lomesa knows this place to be certainly difficult of access. Therefore, do ye practice here the utmost cleanliness. Vasampayana said, he next addressed his brother Bhima of vast prowess, saying, O Bhimsena, do thou protect Krishna carefully. Whether Arjuna be near or away, Krishna in times of danger ever seeketh protection from thee alone. Then the high-souled monarch approached the twins, Nakula and Sahdeva, and after smelling their heads, and rubbing their persons, with tears said unto them, Do not fear. Proceed, however, with caution. Thus ends the 139th section in the Tirthaitara Parva of the Vana Parva. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe to be notified of when new audiobooks are uploaded. Thank you for listening and learning. Shanti.